The role of internal auditors, of course, includes the provision of assurance on the overall effectiveness of internal controls. If we're going to be out there providing assurance around the effectiveness of controls, we'd better have a very good grasp of what an effective framework for internal controls looks like. And the COSO internal control framework that has been released provides a really good roadmap for internal auditors and for management in the overall design and assessment of the effectiveness of internal controls in the company.
First, internal auditors need to educate themselves on the framework itself and then assess what the implications are for the company. And assessing the implications, for example, might address where the gaps are in existing controls, at least on a preliminary basis, and also where the opportunity is for a broader application of the framework to objectives that haven't previously been addressed. And then internal auditors may spearhead the education of others within the organization about the updated framework. So the education of the financial staff and the education generally of management, and a discussion with the audit committee of the board of directors so they understand what the update means and what the overall implications of the update are as it relates to the company.
The first thing that internal auditors should do is to familiarize themselves with the framework. The framework itself is well laid out. It's designed to assimilate or for ease of assimilation. I think internal auditors have that as the first call to action. But then I think beyond that, they need to get themselves some training. They need to make sure that they're fully cognizant of what the new framework encompasses. Because others within the company look to us as the natural experts on internal control, and they're going to look to the internal auditors to give them any advice that may be needed on the design and implementation of the framework within the company.
Well, I think internal auditors are very helpful to the implementation because the underlying skills of internal auditors are very consistent with the subject matter of the framework. So internal auditors have a knowledge of processes and understand processes. Internal auditors understand how to assess risk. They understand how control activities can be applied in order to mitigate risk, etc. So the underlying skills of internal auditors are very helpful and consistent with the subject matter of the framework.
I think it's important to study the framework. The framework includes a 10-page executive summary that I think is pretty much easy for anyone to read. That's a good starting point, but I wouldn't stop there. I'd actually dig into the framework itself and look at those 5 components of control: control environment, risk assessment, control activities, monitoring, information and communication. They're not different from the 1992 framework, but COSO has approached them in a different fashion, giving them 17 underlying principles that help the internal auditor or anybody in the organization responsible for control implement the new framework. So first, study the framework. Then I think it's important to educate others. We truly believe that controls are everybody's business. It's not just an internal audit word, internal control, but everyone needs to know about it, whether they're management, other officers in the organization, your audit committee, your oversight body. Prepare them for what does internal control mean to us today, and what's the breadth of internal control about. It's not just about numbers and financials.